70% of lottery winners lose every single dollar within 5 years. Some do it faster. Some do it in months. And the difference between the ones who survive and the ones who end up broke, or worse, dead, almost always comes down to what they did in the first 48 hours after that ticket got scanned. Not the first year, not the first month, the first 2 days. That's the window where fortunes are protected, or where they're already starting to slip away without anyone realizing it. If you won a life-changing amount of money tonight, right now, what's the very first thing you would actually do? Not the fantasy answer, the real one. Would you call your mom? Post it online? Tell your best friend? Type your honest answer in the comments, because I guarantee you, most people get this wrong, and in a minute you'll understand exactly why. And while you're down there, take a guess. Out of the stories I'm about to walk you through, which one do you think ends the worst? Lock in your prediction before I get there, because I promise you, it's not the one you're expecting. And if you've got someone in your life who just came into money, an inheritance, a settlement, a bonus, even a big win at the casino, send them this video before they make the exact same mistakes these people did. This isn't just a lottery story. It's a warning about sudden money in general. Before we get into it, if you're into real financial mysteries and true stories about money that ruins lives, do me a favor and hit like on this one and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps this channel keep telling these stories, and I've got a lot more of them coming. So let's talk about that 48-hour window, because most people don't even know it exists. In the United States, once you sign the back of a winning lottery ticket, you become the legal owner of that prize. That's it. That's single signature. And the moment your name is tied to that ticket, the clock starts running. Because in most states, once you step forward to claim, your name, your city, sometimes even your photograph becomes public record. Reporters get it, scammers get it, long-lost relatives get it, old co-workers, old classmates, people you haven't spoken to in 15 years, they all get it, sometimes within hours of the announcement. A small number of states allow you to claim through a trust, which lets you stay anonymous, at least on paper. But even then, the paperwork takes time, and lawyers will tell you the same thing every single time. Do not sign that ticket in the store. Do not post about it. Do not tell anyone outside your immediate legal and financial team until the structure is in place. Because once the secret is out, you cannot put it back in the bottle. And history has shown us, over and over again, what happens when people skip that step. Let's start with one of the most infamous cases in American lottery history. Jack Whittaker, a construction company owner from Scott Depot, West Virginia. On Christmas morning in the year 2002, Whittaker won a Powerball jackpot worth $314 million. At the time, it was the largest single lottery win in United States history. And here's the thing, Whittaker wasn't broke before this. He already ran a successful business worth tens of millions. He wasn't desperate for money. But that didn't matter. What mattered was how publicly and how fast everything unraveled. He took his winnings as a lump sum, walked away with about $113 million after taxes, and almost immediately, his life became public property. He was constantly approached for handouts. He carried large amounts of cash around in his car, which sounds almost unbelievable, but it's documented. In one incident, over $500,000 in cash and cashier's checks were stolen from his vehicle while he was at a strip club, a detail that made national headlines. He was later robbed again. He was sued repeatedly. A casino sued him for bouncing checks. He got into legal trouble related to drunk driving. But the part of this story that still gets people, even years later, is what happened to his granddaughter, Brandy Bragg. Whittaker had showered her with cash, cars, credit cards, more money than any teenager should ever have unsupervised access to. Investigators later linked her sudden access to large amounts of money to the environment that surrounded her after the win. People constantly around her, drugs entering the picture, a level of exposure that simply wouldn't have existed if the family had stayed private. In 2004, at just 17 years old, Brandy was found dead. And within a few years, Whitaker himself would say publicly that he wished he had torn up the ticket. Now here's my honest take on that story. And I want you to sit with this for a second. Jack Whitaker didn't lose his money because he was reckless with investments. He didn't lose it because of bad business decisions. He lost control of his life because he let $314 million become public knowledge on day one, with no privacy plan, no security plan, and no barrier between himself and everyone who suddenly wanted a piece of him. Money didn't destroy that family. Exposure did. Let's go to Florida now, because this next one is darker, and it shows you exactly what can happen when the wrong person finds out you're suddenly wealthy. Abraham Shakespeare, a man from Lakeland, Florida, won $30 million from the Florida lottery in 2006. He chose the lump sum, walking away with around $17 million after taxes. And almost immediately, word got out. Friends, family, strangers, they all knew. People lined up outside his house asking for money. He gave loans he never got back. He bought houses for people. And in the middle of all that chaos, a woman named Doris Dee Moore inserted herself into his life, claiming she wanted to write a book about his story and help him manage the attention. Instead, Moore systematically took control of his finances, convinced him to sign over assets, and in April of 2009, Abraham Shakespeare disappeared. His family reported him missing. Investigators eventually found his body buried under a slab of concrete behind a home connected to Moore. She was convicted of first-degree murder in 2012 and sentenced to life in prison. A man who had once been generous to a fault, who trusted the wrong person because that person showed up right when the whole world already knew he was rich, ended up murdered for the very money that was supposed to change his life for the better. All right, quick pause here, because I want to know something from you. Between Jack Whitaker's story and Abraham Shakespeare's story, which one shook you more? Drop it in the comments, because I've seen people go back and forth on this one for years, and honestly, there's no wrong answer. Let's keep going, because the pattern doesn't stop there. William Bud Post, from Pennsylvania, won $16.2 million in the state lottery in 1988. Within less than a year, according to reports at the time, he had already burned through roughly $1 million, buying a used car lot, a restaurant, and various properties, most of which failed or drained cash fast. His own brother was later convicted of hiring a hitman to try to kill him and his wife, hoping to inherit a share of what remained of the winnings. Think about that for a second. Money that was supposed to bring his family security instead turned his own brother into someone plotting his murder. Post ended up filing for bankruptcy and reportedly said, years later, that he wished he had never bought that ticket at all. Then there's Evelyn Adams from New Jersey, who did something almost nobody else has ever done. She won the New Jersey lottery not once, but twice, in 1985 and again in 1986, bringing in a combined total of about $5.4 million. Statistically, winning twice like that is almost impossibly rare. And yet, within roughly a decade, all of it was gone, largely through gambling and generosity toward family members who kept asking for help. She later said publicly that everybody wanted her money, everybody had their hand out, and she gave and gave until there was nothing left. Not every case ends in tragedy, but a lot of them end in the same slow financial bleed. Take Sharon Tirabassi from Hamilton, Ontario, in Canada. In 2004, she won $10.5 million. She used some of it to help her kids, bought a house, took trips, helped friends out financially. And within about 10 years, by her own account, the money was essentially gone, and she was reportedly back to renting a home and relying on public transit. No murder plot, no scandal, just the slow, steady disappearance of a fortune, with no financial structure behind it, and no plan for what happens after the excitement fades. And then there's a case that still unsettles investigators to this day. Arooj Khan, a business owner in Chicago, won $1 million from an instant scratch-off lottery ticket in 2012. He collected his lump sum payout, and then, before he could even fully enjoy it, he suddenly died. His death was initially ruled natural causes, but a family member requested further testing, and it turned out Khan had died from acute cyanide poisoning. To this day, no one has ever been charged. The case remains officially unresolved. A man won life-changing money and was dead within weeks, in a case that still doesn't have a clean answer. Here's my honest opinion on all of this, and I think it's the part people miss the most. We like to imagine that the danger of sudden wealth is spending it badly. Buying too many cars, trusting a bad investment, gambling it away. And sure, that happens constantly. But look closer at these stories. Whitaker's tragedy came from exposure. Shakespeare's murder came from misplaced trust after his win became public. Post's near-death experience came from his own family turning on him. Khan's death remains one of the strangest unsolved cases connected to sudden wealth in modern American history. The common thread isn't bad math. It's that the moment people find out you're suddenly rich, you stop being treated like a person and start being treated like a resource. And most winners never see that shift coming because nobody warns them about it in advance. So, what actually works? What do financial advisors and estate attorneys who specialize in sudden wealth actually recommend in that critical 48-hour window? First, sign the ticket immediately, but tell absolutely no one outside yourself, not even close family, until you have legal guidance. That single piece of paper is worth more than most people will ever hold in their lifetime. And until it's secured, it should be treated like the most sensitive document you own. Second, don't rush to the lottery office. Most states give you anywhere from 90 days up to a full year to claim a prize. That time exists for a reason. Use it. Rushing in on day one, excited and unprepared, is exactly how people end up on the news before they've even hired a lawyer. Third, assemble a team before you claim anything. That means an attorney who specializes in sudden wealth, a certified financial planner, and a certified public accountant. These three people, working together, can help you understand whether a lump sum or an annuity makes more sense for your situation, and whether your state allows you to claim through a trust or an LLC to protect your identity. Fourth, if your state allows anonymous claiming through a trust, use it. This is the single biggest lesson from Jack Whitaker's story. Distance yourself, on paper, from the money as early as legally possible. Fifth, resist the urge to make any big purchases or big promises in those first weeks. No new cars, no house for your cousin, no loans to old friends. Every single one of the broke lottery winners we just talked about made fast promises before they had a real financial plan in place, and those promises are almost impossible to walk back once people start expecting them. And finally, change how reachable you are. New phone number, tightened privacy settings, a serious conversation with immediate family about not discussing the win publicly. It sounds almost paranoid until you remember that people have been robbed, sued, manipulated, and in some documented cases, killed simply because the wrong person found out too soon. The lesson underneath all of these stories isn't really about lottery tickets at all. It's about the fact that sudden, massive wealth strips away your privacy faster than almost anything else in life can. And in the space that gets left behind, it lets in people and situations you were never prepared to handle. The winners who came out the other side intact weren't necessarily smarter or luckier than the ones who didn't. They were just quieter, slower, and more protected in that first critical window, before the world ever found out. So, here's my question for you before you go. If you had 48 hours to protect a life-changing amount of money, Who would you actually let in on the secret? And who would you deliberately keep in the dark? Be honest and drop your answer in the comments, because I read every single one of them. If this story hit you the way I think it did, do me a favor and share it with someone, especially anyone who's ever joked about what they'd do if they won big. And if you want more real stories like this one, hit like, subscribe, and stick around, because this is exactly the kind of thing I did into every single week.